You have to have the courage to embrace the unknown. Modern society, it seems to be, there's not much holding it together at this point. It's like flimsy. It's like duct tape holding it together. And, this flat earth topic is just the kind of thing that could tip the whole thing over. So they can't go back on it now. They can't say, look, we faked the moon landings, guys. They can't. It's like once you lie, once you're in too deep, you can't go back. There's no turning back. So I agree with you. Now, they had to have made a decision a long time ago. Now, it's possible that some ancient, like they say the ancient Greeks postulated a globe Earth, okay? Even before they postulated heliocentrism, they postulated the globe. It was just a geocentric globe. And then the heliocentric model came by more with the Copernican, revolution, some 500 years ago, give or take. But this idea of a globe, they say, goes back to the ancient Greeks. Okay, well, look, can we trust history as presented? Of course not. But let's just use it as an argument. Okay, let's just say the Greeks at some point in antiquity saw boats going, into the horizon and thought that it was actually going over a physical horizon. Okay, let's say that happened. Let's say that, Aristophanes actually did his observation and saw that the shadows were different at, 400 or 500 miles apart and postulated a globe Earth. That's possible, okay? They may have had a theoretical conceptual understanding of a globe, but at some point, science had to have realized that was debunked, At least in the mid-1800s when the first flat earthers came out, like Parallax or, Robotham, and said, this doesn't hold up. We're not, we have technology now. We have telescopes and we have more advanced understanding, and we're examining this and we're finding that it doesn't hold up, right? And people are saying, this doesn't even hold up to logical scrutiny. So whether it was a deception from the beginning or maybe a mistake, a theoretical concept that turned out not to be true, at some point there was a deception instituted and carried out. There was decisions made to institute this deception. That's the importance, because people say constantly, what does it matter? What's the fucking shape of the earth matter? That's the point, is that at some point somebody lied to you, and not just in a small way. They instituted a massive organized conspiracy to deceive you about where you live. That's really what it comes down to. So that's also what most people can't get past, because what they'll do is they'll reject the evidence that's presented to them. They'll reject when you say, look, here's a camera, you could zoom in, that boat didn't go over anything, Or if you present to them, on Navy ships, there's a ballistic weapon called a rail gun. And it shoots like 100 nautical miles line of sight. You see what I mean? So it shows that the globe is physically impossible. Not to mention electromagnetic propagation, not to mention the long distance observations, not to mention all the, physics that show that the globe is impossible. My point is, even when presented with all this evidence, they'll reject it because they can't get past how large the deception is. So they'll default to a mindset that says, well, so many people would have to be in on it, and how could that possibly be? You're right. How could that possibly be? It strains credibility. But guess what? Somehow it was instituted. Somehow they perpetrated this lie on us, right? And again, once you get past the book, your pre-indoctrinated bookends, you might be able to see how they do that. Start to conjecture. Say, well, if this is a spiritual realm, if we're really talking about angels and demons and shit like that, and fallen ones, energetic beings that are interacting with us in ways that we really don't understand, once you look at a spiritual world, you can start to see the deception. you can start to see if there's a force here to deceive us for whatever reason, it starts to make sense because it then goes beyond mere mortals at that point. And you can understand what we're actually dealing with here. And you can start to understand how this could be perpetrated. Because the reasonable mind understands, like, okay, if everything that you guys are saying is true, you flat earthers, that means all the governments are in on it. So right away you realize that this idea of independent nations that are somehow, maneuvering in some geopolitical environment really goes out the window if they're all colluding on the space lie. So once you understand that, then you have to come to grip with all these realities that go against the very core concepts that form our identity. And that's what it really is because once you're basically presented with this type of operant classical conditioning from birth, you begin to identify with a certain persona, a persona that was created for you through the system. You then base your identity, your self-worth, and your whole mental concept of self on the persona. So when somebody presents information to you that in some way contradicts your indoctrination, you'll reject it from an emotional level. And that's why we consistently get these emotional questions and the emotional responses from people who are new to the subject, is because they're basically dealing with it from a very base level, a level that is almost like an instinctual level, because to go against consensus as a human, because we're social and communal beings, is actually a threat to one's survival. Okay? I mean, look at all the flat earthers who lose their jobs, lose their marriages, lose their friends, become ostracized from their community. See, there's consequences there. So what will happen is they play on these base emotions that make us human. They exploit and manipulate these so that when you're faced with a logical paradigm that you can't get past, or a cognitive dissonance that you can't get past, you'll revert to consensus because it's comfortable and it's safe and it's rewarded. But it doesn't make the lie true. It's still a lie. A lie is going to be a lie. And the truth is always going to be the truth.